bum 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 ba-da-da-dum bum bum ba-dum ba-ba-dum rum bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-da-da-dum bum bum ba-dum ba-ba-dum. My hair is I've just come in from the wind. Oh my goodness. Hi everyone. Good evening. So nice to see everyone. Wasn't sure I was going to make it tonight. I just drove up the driveway and ran in the windy southern winds, and I'm here, and it's so good to be here because I love to see you all. My name is Joette Calabrese, and I'm here every Monday night to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to teach you homeopathy and share information as well to keep you going in your homeopathy pathway. And so for those of you who don't know me, that's where I come from. And for those who do, it's so nice to see you all. Wonderful. It's the same friends, time after time, every Monday night, whether we need it or not. Hi, Tara from Western Australia, and Nan from Yorkville, Pennsylvania, and hello from New York City. So great. Jupiter, Florida. Hi, Shelley. Great to see you all. So we are going to talk about one of the most beloved homeopathic medicines known to mankind tonight. As Janique from Boron often says, Arnica is the Trojan horse of homeopathy. And I'm going to ask my family to close my door, please. Can you close my door? Because it's loud coming from the other room. Can you close my door, please? And so it is the Trojan horse of homeopathy because it's it's kind of the gateway into using homeopathy. People who know nothing about homeopathy do often know how to use homeopathy. And so it's one of the first medicines we learn, and it's Arnica montana, as I said, and it's one of these simple little medicines that is so effective. Doesn't cost more than, sometimes it costs as little as $7, sometimes as much as $12, a whopping $12. And so would you mind closing? Thank you very much. And maybe even my fan. It's really hot in here too. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. First, I want to tell you, my friends, I know that you know about this medicine, but there's so much more to learn. And if you read a Materia Medica, if you read Robin Murphy's Materia Medica, or if you read Boricchi's, or even accounts of how homeopathy is used in practices. I have a lot of old homeopathy books that I love to refer to that sometimes I just read for light reading. And I love to be able to find new ways to use old medicines. Now, not all homeopaths feel that way. Some homeopaths are looking to find new medicines. But I feel as though our variety of medicines that we have available to us is so voluminous. There are, some say, as many as 6,000 homeopathic medicines, and that may very well be. We really don't need to know more than just the top 100. And at the very top of the top is Arnica montana. Now, people often ask me, what do you keep in your purse, or what is your favorite homeopathic medicine? And I have to say that I often tell people that it's aconitum. Aconitum is my favorite medicine. Doesn't mean that it outshines Arnica. It's just that aconitum is so good for shock and cold, a quick cold, an onset of a cold that comes on quickly, etc. Arnica is a little different. It can also be used for accidents. So they're almost rivalrous in their ability to take care of so many wonderful conditions. I actually think, however, that Arnica beats out aconitum in terms of the sheer variety of conditions that it has been known to be used for. Now, I wonder if that's because it has a greater ability. Does it have a greater ability than other medicines, or is it that it's more studied? It's been used for a longer period of time in history. It was known as an herb and used botanically for so long that you wonder whether or not it's possible that it could simply be that it has such an ability to be ubiquitous on Earth. And it's found in so many places on Earth that perhaps humanity's just learned to use it more readily. It's known for its, I have some notes here, for its body and mind healing properties. Yes, mind too, my friends, yes. This medicine is used for shocking feeling after an accident. And I'll go into a couple of other areas too. It is an herb. And it's been harvested mostly in mountainous areas, which of course makes perfect sense because when we know that one of Arnica's greatest uses is in its ability to deal with injuries, contusions, broken bones, hematomas, sufferings that might occur as a result of the location that the person needs it, such as in the mountains of say, the Alps, the mountainous region of the Alps. Also in pastures and lowland marshes of Europe and North America. It's an orangey yellow daisy-like flower. I have also known it as a white flower. It has a pleasant spicy smell. And it has, the flowers can often be dried, and that's how it's used, is from the flowers. And it is it almost went it almost went into extinction because people were picking so much of it. I believe that's the reason. But now there's much more careful stewardship of this plant, probably because those who are using it, such as the homeopathic pharmacies, are making sure that it is being carefully cultivated and taken care of and protected. So it is, and so now, of course, it's used in general use, and most people know this medicine. I'm going to give you some ideas of how it's used, and I've talked about this before, but you know what? You can never talk too much about certain medicines, and especially this one. So first thing I want to tell you is about a product that is made with Arnica, and it's called Synec. So Ek tells us that it's discussing ecchymosis, which is the medical term for black and blue. And Syn means without or no. So it's without black and blue. I can't seem to get this straight. Let's get this straight like this. Hold on. There we go. Synec is a wonderful product that is often recommended by plastic surgeons. And it's been developed by Hahnemann Pharmacy out in San Francisco way, and I know the folks who run that pharmacy, who own that pharmacy, and it's a very good pharmacy. But it was developed years ago. I won't go into too far of a story on it because it is a very interesting story. That it was presented to plastic surgeons many years ago. By the original owner of Hahnemann Pharmacy, and then repackaged and called Synec instead of just plain garden variety Arnica. And it only goes to show that marketing means an awful lot. I've had people come to me and say, yeah, I'm having plastic surgery, or I've just had plastic surgery, and my plastic surgeon suggested that I take Synec, and he tells me it's homeopathic. Is it any good? And I say, is it any good? It is Arnica. Arnica is one of our best medicines for after surgery because it deals with ecchymosis, black and blue, and pooling of blood. So that is that's where we can start with this, because since a product was actually made to and called a different product based on Arnica's ability to reduce black and blue marks, especially on the face, swelling and black and blue. It becomes the underpinnings for a lot of the description of what this medicine is capable of doing. So, Arnica, Montana. I want to hear what you've used it for. While you're jotting this down and commenting to me, I would like to tell you that it has the ability to protect against clots being formed. Oh, yes, indeed. When my father was taking aspirin daily because he had a cardiac condition many years ago, I replaced it with Arnica 3. I also used it in 6, but I replaced it with a 3C, as I recall, daily, and he took that instead of aspirin for at least a decade, and it was very useful. He then no longer got the thinning skin as a result of aspirin. He no longer got ecchymosis because of what aspirin causes. And in general, it revived him and made him feel a little perkier, I would say. There are many unusual uses for Arnica. It's used in cosmetics. It's used in ointments. It's used in hair tonics, anti-dandruff products, and it can even, sometimes it's even used in beverages and in flavors. Now, I'm not talking about necessarily that it's used homeopathically, but it can also be used homeopathically in those products as well. So, bleeding, bruising, swelling after surgery. Arnica 200 has been a great medicine I use it in my surgical protocol that I teach in my pain course, but also in my survivalist course. And for a surgical protocol, we use it the night before, the morning of, and then just after surgery's been performed. And it not only brings down the angst of the patient, but it also helps with the bleeding, internal bleeding, protects against infection, and helps with the stiffness that sometimes comes as a result of being put in unusual positions for surgery. Let's see what folks are saying. Just took some tonight for lower backache, says Jill. Before and after dental treatments. Thank you, Karen. Absolutely. That is one of my best medicines for dental procedures, especially when braces are put on children, although we do everything we can to avoid that, my friends. It can be done. We can do a lot of good without orthodontists. More good than you might imagine. I'm not saying you would never use an orthodontist, but be ever so, let's say, cautious about using an orthodontist for a child, even though the teeth may not be coming in straight. There's a lot more on that, and I talk about it here and there, so if you dig around, you'll find more information on that. But it is great for when braces are put on. It's for the pain, and it's used accordingly, in a 30 or 200 potency. Arnica 204 doses, says Carrie, to stop elderly father's unknown bleeding after 10 days in the hospital. He was discharged the next day. Carrie, I think I remember that story. Have you told me that before? I banged myself on my friend's Jeep, ran into the store to get some Arnica 200, ended up with a lump, but no black and blue marks. Yes. Used for post-knee replacement for pain and to prevent blood clots. Yes, Rita, it is great for blood clotting as well as the pain from surgery. No doubt about it. Arnica 1M for kidney strokes in progress. 200 for recovery period. This is what everybody's telling me. Hi, Joette. Yeah. Hi, Joette. Hi, Perry. Hi, Mighties. Good for when you're hit by a Zamboni. Yes, I said it. Yes. Those Zambonis are crazy out there. You got to be careful, my friends. Be very watchful of them. If you live in Buffalo or any area, Ontario, or any place where it's cold, you have to be careful because they come zooming around those edges around the ice and you could get hit by one. Arnica saved my rooster. We came home and the two roosters had a fight. And the favorite on was a heap in the yard. Our favorite one was a heap in the yard. We thought he was dead. My husband went over to him and said, he is still alive. I said, quick, let's give him Arnica. He was like a limp dishcloth. Looked like he was dead. I had my husband hold his beak open, and we put Arnica down his throat, and in the morning he was better. It was amazing. I know we've used it for wild birds that have hit against they've run into our window, in our doors here in Florida. And it's happened twice now, picked up the bird, held it, stunned, put the Arnica in its mouth, and lo and behold, it was able to fly in about an hour. Used for had an outdoor rink at the new Ben Hotel and a real Zamboni in West Palm Beach, says Shelley. Used Arnica 30 today after my fall and busted up my right knee. Ouch. It's really, that's from Authentic Health. Let me tell you, friends, this is so fabulous because this is a testimony to homeopathy and one of its most important medicines. Is that, look at all of these comments. My mom fell and broke a rib, took Arnica right away and never got swelling and bruising, and used only homeopathy to heal, never stayed in the hospital, and was better within 3 weeks. She's 72. Son plays hockey, Arnica 200 for blows to the head. Blows to the head. My friends, if a child, anybody hits their head, the first thing we think of is Arnica montana and a 200C given frequently, quite frequently. On the way to the hospital, if you feel it's necessary to do that, but you might find that that hematoma will soften down in very, very short order. The person becomes less frightened and less in a shocky state, and the pain melts away. But I also want to remind you, my friends, that homeopathy, Arnica montana is great for jet lag. I use it regularly, and I encourage others in my family to use it who do a lot of flying. Arnica 30, and I also use it for Arnica in a 30 for wounds. I don't put it directly on there, but when there's a wound, I don't use it on the wound itself. This is all done orally. Now, I also want to tell you about Joepathy, Joe de Oliveira, a dear friend of mine who has been practicing homeopathy in Sri Lanka for, I'm going to guess that it's been close to 50 years. He's well into his 80s, and he takes Arnica daily and has done so for decades. And he attributes his well-being, his ability to get around well, and a good cardiac health to his use of Arnica montana. I've talked about that before. And I don't want to get into the specifics of exactly how he does it, but he uses it in a liquid dose, and I think he's very much onto something. So Arnica 30 for insomnia, and this is really, I've told this story before. I think this is so much fun. I never thought of Arnica montana early on when I was first studying homeopathy. This was back in the late 80s. My mother remembered the name Arnica montana because she heard me and my friends talking about it. And so she thought, well, I don't know what it is, but you know what? I can't sleep at night. So she started to take Arnica montana 30, and she found that it removed the insomnia that she was experiencing. And she took it on and off here and there for many years. And it was something I said, Mom, Arnica for insomnia? I don't think it's really for injuries. But no, I've learned through the years, my mother was absolutely right. I use Arnica for so many things, says Martine. Banging a toe or a finger. Take Arnica 30 for protection of my heart instead of aspirin. Yes. Stops bleeding. Cannot sleep at night. I take it sometimes. Absolutely. It's working for my hip pain, says Donna. Hi, Donna. Which has become 80% better since I've been using it consistently. And that's the key, friends. We have to use this medicine sometimes for a chronic condition. We have to use it consistently. If we don't use it consistently, then, it's easy to say, gee, I don't know if it was really working. So we use it. And if we find that even with 80% improvement in the hip for Donna, if she finds that she's using it, let's say twice a day, and it's still not on her, she feels, she overdid it. Maybe she cleaned the garage, she worked too hard, or she took a walk that was too long. Take another dose. Make it 3 doses a day. So morning, noon, and evening. That's another way to do it. And then wait for that tipping point until you can figure out exactly where it needs to go. In other words, how frequently must I take this in order to be relieved of most of my pains? And then you can back off. Instead of going 3 times a day, then you back off and go to twice daily until you can find out what the frequency is that makes the most sense. Yes, somebody's talking about using it for insulin and less spikes. Yes, my friends, yes. For blood sugar, for blood pressure. It is one of the best medicines for, here we go, blood glucose levels. Says Melissa, 6C water spray to help regulate type 1 daughter's blood glucose levels, but not just type 1, although that is the real difficult one, is type 2 as well. Dolly, I've learned not to listen to doctors who try to warn us against using Arnica before or after surgery. They don't understand about the homeopathic preparation of the medicine and often confuse it with its gross form. You're absolutely right, Elizabeth. Thank you for saying that. Holy goats. What doesn't it treat, says Gina. I love that, holy goats. I love that. May I borrow that, holy goats? Yes, for sleep. Yeah, I'll keep going. So for insomnia, let's keep talking about these because there's so many conditions. Now, how about this one? For those of you who don't know, I teach this in my skin course. Eczema, my friends. Yes, using Arnica montana for eczema. I've used it in a 6C and I've also used it in a 30C. And both of those times I've learned to use that through Joe De Oliveira. I have studied his work through the years, and I believe that he's used it in both a 6C and a 30C, not simultaneously. For one period of time he used it in a 6 and others he used it in a 30, and it's not only taken orally but sprayed on the eczema. Yes, my friends, sprayed on the skin, on the lesions. Absolutely, it's a beautiful thing. How about vitiligo? How about using it for vitiligo? That's the hyperpigmentation on the skin that many women have after menopause. How about cellulitis? Using it for cellulitis. Yes, my friends, we have other medicines that we use for cellulitis. I might use pyrogenium, but to be able to use Arnica, absolutely, I would consider that. How about this? How about Arnica montana for angina? Now, for my father, I believe that it helped him a great deal for a long period of time, but then later on in life, we found that angina was best met with Cimicifuga. But I think that Arnica, at that later in life, I think my father stopped using it for a while, and that could be the reason why we needed to go on to Cimicifuga. How about the promotion of hair growth? How about that? Using it as a spray, getting it in a mother tincture, not homeopathically prepared, but in a mother tincture, and mixing it with water and spraying it in the area on the scalp, and doing it regularly, not just once. And the same thing with the eczema. You don't just spray it once and say, okay, that's done. No, when the eczema is itching, you're going to spray. Leave it wet. Let it dry on its own. Then when it dries, if the itching is gone, great. If the itching return to spraying it on again. And for the hair, for the scalp, it could be done twice a day and rubbing it into the scalp. How about for headaches? Arnica montana is great for headaches. It's really good for headaches, especially when the person is dehydrated or the person has had an injury. Let's say they had an ankle injury, yet now they have a headache. Sometimes there's that those concomitant conditions that I would definitely use it in that case. But it's also a great medicine without having a concomitant condition. What about for circulation? Oh, thank you, Taylor. It is one of our best medicines for circulation. Is it not one of our best medicines for varicose veins? And then how about hemorrhoids? And we often mix it with hamamelis for those conditions. Or for hemophiliac and a 30C used several times a day, twice or 3 times a day, or any internal hemorrhage. And how about bed sores? Listen to this. Listen to what this medicine is able to do. What is the dilution for the mother tincture spray for hair? I'm not going to go exactly into the dilutions today. I got too many to go through, Karen. I'm sorry. Just play around with it. Let me know, though, what you come up with. Jody, I take... Okay, they're talking to each other. Let's see. Yes, and so there is a point of view from many doctors are very afraid of it because what they do is they look up Arnica montana and they see that indeed if it's used in the gross form, it can cause hemorrhaging, but in the homeopathic formula, it does the opposite. It corrects hemorrhaging. How about after childbirth? Hemorrhaging after childbirth, one of our best. And since we're talking about mothers, how about it is aconite? We never, ever, ever, ever use aconite in a mother tincture. Arnica, yes, in a mother tincture. Aconitum, never, ever, ever in a mother tincture. I can't stress that enough, my friends. What was Joe's recommendation for longevity? He took it daily. He took a sip of it every day. It could be used for burns. Yes, vasculitis with Banerjee protocol of hamamelis mixed with arnica. Rheumatism, gout. Let's see what else I've got here. Erectile dysfunction when we use it in a 6C. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. We don't necessarily use it at the moment of need, although that's not a bad idea to try that because it's all vascular. Arnica is all about the vascular system, so why not, right? But if erectile dysfunction is pretty persistent, why not just take it? Why not use it every day in a low potency 6C, for example, and see how things work out after a couple of months. Tonsillitis, we use Arnica in a 30. Listen to this. Hypertension is in a 30. How about alcoholism? How about trying Arnica 30 for alcoholism? Yes, and in that case, we're not going to use it only when the person is craving to have a drink, but rather on a day, because if someone's an alcoholic, they may need to use it every single day. Yes. How do we make the tincture? Now, a tincture, you have to purchase it as a mother tincture. Yes. Spider veins as well, that's right. Oh, I don't know if I told you, but the melasma is used. We use it in a 30C, and it can be sprayed on the face or put in a wet dose and put on the face. It can also be taken orally, but I would put it directly on the face. Some people say it improves eyesight. What do you think? Cataracts. We're talking about women's issues. Menstrual pain. One of our best medicines for menstrual pain. How about after a hangover? Now, most people think of Nux vomica, but no, Arnica montana can often be used in a 30C. Take a couple doses after a hangover, although you should not be getting hangovers, my friends. Don't abuse your body. But you know, sometimes people report to me that it feels like they have a hangover, but they've not had alcohol. They just feel beat up and achy and feel as though they're feeling pretty uncomfortable. Tara says to Diane, I used it for the pain, but it did not fix, I'm going too fast, fix the burn. Cantharis does better for that, but Arnica was better for the pain. Very good, yes. Yes, you once told me, said Donna, to use it in a 6C for diabetes type 2. Is that twice per day? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, great for childbirth. It's not a bad, I took Arnica as soon as I went into labor with my second and third labors, my second and third children. And it helps with, keeps the mom from hemorrhaging, moves it along a little faster. The pain is lessened. The bruising pain from the baby pushing hard or pushing up against, let's say, the tailbone or something like that, where there is could be even an injury of some sort, a hematoma, even for the baby. It helps with the baby's head and not being injured that way. Redness on cheeks and rosacea. You know what? I've never used it in that fashion, but I am thinking about that. You're giving me some room for thought. Undergoing surgery. I want to make sure I've covered. There's so much more. I mean, we could spend really a week on this. Truly. This is the medicine. This is the miracle remedy. Joe Pathy has written about it. Joe De Oliveira. So if you're interested in that, that's great. That's great information. Yes, Arnica is good for a very hard, long, tiring day, says Alice. Very well put, Alice. Yes. Leslie says, my son is scheduled for jaw surgery, upper and lower, to prepare to give surgery protocol and have it on hand for swelling, pain, and bruising. They say upper jaw causes a lot of bleeding due to sinus being irritated, so hoping it will help to not bleed and for the surgeon to be amazed. I think the surgeon will be amazed. Make sure you're not giving it too early. You're giving it the night before and the morning of. And then afterwards as needed. Don't start days in advance. Costochondritis. Yes, Lisa. That's rib pain. You're absolutely right. Costochondritis. My mom is in love with Arnica, says Elizabeth. What dosage for Osgood? Well, Osgood, Schlatter is, I mean, it could be a 30 or a 200. I would use either one of those. Definitely like a fire hose. This was a beautiful antique brass fire hose fitting that was given to me by some of my students, my first year of the academy, the first year who graduated, and I have and I've been aiming it at my students this way for a very long time. And so tonight I'm aiming it at you because, my friends, I hope that you see how sweeping just one medicine can be. I hope that you realize that this medicine is what you've been looking for your entire life. This is the medicine you thought you were getting. And what I mean by that is every time you went to the doctor for a urinary tract infection, you thought, well, this is going to cure it. And then lo and behold, no, it wasn't cured. No, it came back again. And more antibiotics and more antibiotics. And you thought that by going to the rheumatologist that you were going to be just fine with Humira. No, it didn't really quite work out like that. Or that you were given the drugs that are specific for angina or for, I could keep going, eczema, etc., etc. It is the homeopathic Tylenol, says Allison. And then people are talking about giving it to their cat, their dog. I've given it to goats. I've given it to chickens, like what was discussed earlier. I gave it to Buster when he needed it. I've given it to all of my children. And so I think what we're going into now is we're ready to go into Mighties, Perry. Yes, we are. We're going into Mighties. So for those of you who are Mighty members, stay on. Well, more questions, more comments. I'm looking forward to it. Bye, everyone, and stay on for